Today's topic is a provocative one: the hidden power of the People's Republic of China in international conflicts. From the Russia-Ukraine war to the Gaza crisis, and even tensions involving the United States and Iran, China's role, whether visible or behind the scenes, has become increasingly difficult to ignore. This raises an important question. How should we understand China's strategic behavior in a world shaped by rising nationalism and evolving forms of conflict? To answer this, we need to revisit a key concept: unrestricted warfare. First, the shift in thinking introduced by unrestricted warfare. Proposed in 1999, this idea argues that modern conflict is no longer limited to the battlefield. Instead, it expands across multiple domains: economic pressure, information manipulation, psychological influence, political interference, and even legal systems. In this framework, war is no longer declared. It is continuous, ambiguous, and often invisible. Importantly, nuclear weapons take on a different role. They are not just tools of destruction or retaliation. They become instruments of strategic signaling and psychological pressure. The key insight here is simple but powerful. The goal is not necessarily to use nuclear weapons, but to use the threat of them to reshape behavior and expectations. Second, the limitations of traditional international rules. Institutions and agreements like the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty or the principle of no first use depend heavily on mutual trust and self-restraint. But what happens when a highly centralized state prioritizes strategic goals over international norms? In such cases, these rules may lose their binding force. Similarly, UN sanctions are difficult to apply effectively against major powers, especially nuclear-armed ones. Strategic objectives can outweigh reputational or economic costs. Even nuclear deterrence, long considered a stabilizing force, can be weakened. Why? Because it relies on rational decision-making. But in an environment shaped by misinformation and psychological operations, rationality itself can be distorted. Third, why forward-looking thinking is essential. If we rely only on traditional frameworks, we risk underestimating emerging threats. We must instead consider a broader set of factors: decision-making under manipulated or incomplete information, the use of non-military tools such as cyber operations, economic leverage, and legal strategies, the role of psychological intimidation and strategic signaling. In this environment, nuclear weapons may function less as weapons of war and more as tools of influence. Finally, the conclusion. International rules and nuclear deterrence still matter, but their effectiveness is no longer guaranteed. Under the logic of unrestricted warfare, their influence can be weakened, especially when facing highly centralized systems. This means that analyzing global conflict, and especially nuclear risk, requires a more flexible, multi-dimensional approach, one that combines political analysis, psychological insight, and strategic foresight. At the same time, internal vulnerabilities, such as corruption within elite networks, may represent both a risk factor and a potential pathway toward de-escalation. In short, the nature of conflict is changing, and if our thinking doesn't change with it, we may fail to see the risks clearly until it's too late.